ओम सर्वधर्मस्थापकस्थं सर्वधर्मस्वरूपकः आचार्याणां महाचार्यो रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. We are studying here Sri Ramakrishna is a great master. Fifth part, the master in divine mood and Narendranath, and we have just completed the 8th chapter, 2 sections which we found to be extremely profound. And it ended in Naren's accepting the mother. And now we are in chapter 9. The circle of devotees of the master and Narendranath. So what he wants to say here? When the and is there, there are two things. The circle of devotees of the master. So we have found that Thakur's divinity has to be seen by his devotees. So in relation to different devotees, how Thakur behaved and how they behaved, that is the first part. And then Narendranath. Now Narendranath, with whom Thakur, how he behaved. But this and means something more. That Narendra's relation with the circle of devotees. How are Narendra shown to be the chief in the circle of devotees. So circle of devotees and master. Narendranath and master. And Narendranath and circle of devotees. So now let us see. The marked devotees of the master came by 1884. First is limiting that time. All those devotees of the master mentioned before were the whose coming to Dakshineshwar he had seen in his yogic visions, arrived there before the close of 1884. For Purna came to him in the beginning of 1885. After bestowing his grace on him, he said, with Purna's coming, the coming of that class of devotees whom I saw in visions is completed. That is the double meaning of the word Purna. So Purna makes that devotees Purna. No one else of this class will come hereafter. That means hereafter many will come, many will come, but not of this type. They came to get their thirst quenched and went away. The master's behavior with the class of devotees. Notice the special in this behavior. Master would appear before them according to their mood. according to their state of mind in their mood. That is something unique, not heard of in the world. So that is describes.
This no one class else will come. So after master death also,
Huh?
no one else of this class will come hereafter.
Huh.
So after master passing away also, no one will come of that class. That also meaning of
That class.
That class.
That class. Purna complete that class. Now that class which you have seen in the visions, they have come. Again, now within that period, many of the above mentioned class of devotees came to the master during the period between the middle of 1883 and that of 1884. What is the special in this period we have to find? Narendra was then struggling against dire poverty to maintain his family. What is the implication?
Father's death.
Now, in this circle of devotees, what is the implication? Narendra is not coming to master so frequently.
Yes.
And that is why he could deal with the other devotees. And Rakhal had gone to Vrindavan for some time.
So both are.
So both the main leaders are absent. And that is the period in which everybody came. To the devotees beside him, the master would say regarding the coming of some one of those devotees, even before he came, one belonging to this place is coming today from this direction. So previously I seen a vision, and then that day would anticipate him. He's coming. Every line speaks of Thakur as God only, pointing to a particular direction like that. He said this direction or this direction. Or as soon as one came, he would receive him lovingly and say, you are a person belonging to this place. In the case of a few fortunate ones, he felt special attraction and became eager to see and feed them and have a religious talk with them in seclusion. Specially attracted, special love, eager to see them, feed them, and talk to them in seclusion, not in front of others. He would observe the nature and past impression of one and introduce him to another devotee who had come before and had similar impressions. So when two people of the same bhava associate with each other, their bhava grows. So that the farmer might have the opportunity of spending his leisure in religious discussion with the latter. That means apart from coming to Thakur, if he has time, he will go to his house. That is wonderful something. Again, he would visit, so many things he is doing. Again, he would visit the houses of some such devotees unasked and would please their guardians with good conversation so that they might not forbid their wards to visit him now and then. Thus clearing their way to come to him. So Sadhana Swami has observed these things, sir. Inspired with the divine mood, the master touched, initiated, or dealt otherwise with the devotees according to each one's fitness. So how much grace he can receive according to that fitness, he would either touch or give mantra or deal in some other way. critical observation. I don't think any other master disciple observed all these things.
So minutely.
As soon as or short, because Rakhan Maharaj was not there at all. Swamiji was busy. As soon as or shortly after such a devotee came, he called him aside and asked him to meditate. And then he touched under the influence of divine inspiration certain parts of his body, such as chest, tongue, etc. Chest touching means arousing the consciousness. Tongue means writing the mantra there. You have read in that Shambhavi Shakti Diksha. It is not in the ears, it is written on the tongue. Etc. Is etc. there? It should be. Prabhuji. No effect on that. On account of this divine touch, the devotee's mind would become indrawn and lose consciousness partially or fully. Body consciousness gone. Outside consciousness sometimes wholly gone. And the past accumulated religious impressions of the devotee would become suddenly active. They are suppressed, they become active. And engage him deeply in the realization of God. So, third category, losing consciousness, half losing consciousness, or getting aroused and then struggling. Consequently, on account of that touch, one would have the vision of a divine light or of the luminous figure of a god or goddess. Understood? These Nirakarvadis would see only a flame. And the Sakarvadis would see that God luminous. God or goddess luminous. Luminous means full of light. Full of light.
And Nirakarvadi also will see
the flame or something. Like that figure is not there. And this represents the Chaitanya, light. Another, so according to mental constitution, another would be in deep meditation or feel a bliss never experienced before. So, Ananda, deep meditation. A third type. A third would have the knots of his heart suddenly loosened and removed and experience an intense eagerness for God realization. So different levels and different constitutions. We are bound by our sanskaras. They are released and he wants God now. I told an incident perhaps several times. Now we are all talking of Thakur. But to understand these things, I have seen this happening with my Guruji. I will repeat one incident. It's about my elder brother. Elder brother means I am the last of four brothers. So one just elder than me. In Bengal we say Chota. Now when I finally, we are a difference of 4 years, but we are very close to each other. And finally when I was, last day, I was coming away from home to Nagpur. He said that your face is toward the east and my face is toward the west. I said, if you feel like that, what can I do? See, most popular boy of the college, he represented his college in 7 sports and all the time first class. And I would say, not that he was chasing girls, but girls were chasing him like that, like that. So he said, my face is West. Then some providential thing happened. He was in Mumbai and the house was in Gwalior. No, brother elder than him got married. And something about his marriage negotiation, something was happening. And for that he was going from Mumbai to Gwalior. Nagpur is nowhere in the picture. But the train in front of his train got delayed. So his train got diverted via Nagpur. Now he had not kept touch. That means other people, my parents and others had come to the ashram, but he never cared for that. But attached to me and resourceful. So he found out that break journey for 3 days is allowed even in diverted journey. And the train would be in Nagpur station for a longer time. So he took a taxi and told the taxi that you have to wait for 10 minutes. I do not know whether I can stay there. If I can stay, I will pay you. Otherwise, I will come back with the same taxi and go in the train. About 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I was staying in another building of the ashram across the road. But at 2 o'clock every day I had some work in the ashram. So I entered from the side gate and his taxi came in front gate. In brief, he told me all this and asked me, can I stay? I said, surely you can stay. But my Guruji, after lunch, he would walk 1 hour in the veranda and go to rest. Now 1 hour was over, but still he was in the veranda. So I told him, Swamiji is there, let us go and ask him. So I took him and asked, told this thing in brief to Maharaj. Then he talked. Can I stay in the ashram? That day I think I told this incident to our Partha. I was talking about my Chodda one day. Yeah. That I am telling you. Because the thing has come about Thakur. So to explain that I am telling this. So the thing is that all the hidden deep sanskaras Thakur would arouse. That topic is there. So then 3 days he was there. And no conversation I am completing. Can I stay in the ashram? The reply is break journey allowed? Then next question. How many days can I stay? How many days break journey is allowed? Then he stayed for 3 days. And when he was about to go, we had a class from Shivatattvananji. And behind the classroom was the veranda where Guruji after breakfast would walk. So I told him, you take leave from him and go, I'll be in the class. But we could see and hear what they were talking. And he made pranams and started weeping bitterly. And said that one brother you have kept and one brother you are driving out. Then he said, I am not driving out anybody. As I have kept one brother, I will keep the other brother also. But I clearly see the pattern of your life is different. You go ahead, don't be afraid. That means marriage and all that. So what happened to that? My face to the west. So in those 3 days, he has lost all the previous sanskaras. Now if the sanskaras are not there, he won't create them. Because next elder, Mejda, he came, he took initiation along with his wife. But even today is almost like that. But now turning religious to some extent. So with him he did not do anything. My eldest brother was a mathematician. He came from America and came to meet me. He talked with my Guruji for 20 minutes. I did this and I did that and I did that. And after 20 minutes, Maharaj asked him, before 10 years, did you know where the wind will blow? Understand the meaning? Are your desires, your sanskaras have carried you. You are telling, I did this and I did that. Before 10 years, did you know where the wind will blow? So he dealt with each brother differently. That is what I am telling. So, with each devotee, Thakur is behaving differently. Anyway, I need not complete this story. I told you that day. Now, after he married, he was a big engineer, and February 1960 this happened. I joined in April or May 1959. And in April, I got initiation. And he got one day before me. Yatisharji would initiate individually. Yes. Not more than 8 or 10 in a day. Common instructions. And initiation, each he would call in the mandir and initiate. Exception, persons of the same bhav, of the same family. That was his language. So, parents got together on 8th April. And this Chodda got on 9th April and I got on 10th April. My younger sister on 12th April. And after my parents went back, they sent this Mejda and his wife. So he got on the 14th April last day. So many days, together 54. Anyway, so that completes this story. I will add the other two things also. The book has been published about Yatisharanjis. In that I have written all these details. That form Yatisharanji has introduced. And he was not satisfied with the form also. He would ask each member same questions which are in the form one day previously. And then decide which mantra is to be given to whom. So, one of the questions is, what is your Kula Devata? So I asked my parents, and they told some name. I partially remembered and found out in the internet that day. Yeah. Yogeshwari, Vadeshwar, something. Then, same day, my brother interviewed. So he asked him, what is your Kula Devata? He knows, but he asked him. Knows means he. So my brother says, Sri Ramakrishna. Then he said, how? Your parents told different name. He said, that was their Kula Devata. But today they have taken mantra in Thakur's name. So my Kula Devata is Ramakrishna. Then that day, my interview, he asked me, what is your Kula Devata? I said, there were several stones in our house and we were worshipping. I do not know names, etc. Then he laughed loudly. What I wanted to say, he said, I have understood. For you people, religion means Sri Ramakrishna means religion. That's I will tell something funny from my side. Now, Thakur said that the who was Rama was Krishna is Ramakrishna. So people say, so he is incarnation. I would say, so Rama and Krishna were also incarnation. Anyway, and that was literally true. I started talking to you, some then I started talking personally. Eldest brother was out of town already. We three were there. And puja was done by alternate days, 3 days. And who finishes puja quickly? Like that was our puja. In a fourth, list is not types of devotees and Thakur's touch and their effect on them. A fourth would be inspired with spiritual emotions and enter into savikalpa samadhi. So the spiritual emotion again comes out like that. How? So it already relation with God. And that bhava would reach its culmination. What is savikalpa samadhi? You remember? In that chapter on bhava samadhi in Purvartha it was described. So now he is telling that mention. Savikalpa. Vikalpa means alternate. So God is there and you are there. And why it is samadhi? Because world is not there. You are feeling or seeing God. We are playing with God, with some relation. And world is obliterated. That much world is there which is in relation to your God. So savikalpa means you are there. And samadhi means total absorption. The consciousness or bhav actually is aroused. And it meets its end on the first day's touch. So like magic, or as Swami Vivekananda said, as we mold a clay ball, he does anything. According to the fitness of the devotee. He is not some Gode Bharatakya, everybody said, not at all. And a rare one, now instead of telling fifth, a rare one would get a foretaste of Nirvikalpa Samadhi. Foretaste means touch or like that. Nirvikalpa means you are not there. Samadhi means total absorption. So it would not remain, it would not be Brahma, but a taste of it. So that you will later on get it. So 5 categories he has said. There was no limit to the number of persons who came to him and thus had the vision of luminous figures. So maximum is this. We have seen that either light or luminous figures. So Nirakarvadis will see a flame and the others will get their own Ishtam as full of light. So he told this as the first effect. So maximum people belong to this category. We heard from the master himself that Tarak one day thus experienced a great eagerness and a welling up in his mind, as a result of which all the knots of his heart were loosened. So this is one of the categories. So that has happened. He is giving an example. Mahapurush Maharaj himself told that it happened. All these knots are. And later on also, suppose he is sitting for meditation and Thakur goes there As soon as you see Thakur, he starts weeping. And Thakur used to say, these tears are coming from the other corner. So that abhav used to be felt terribly. That eagerness, that hunger. A welling up in his mind. As a result of which, all the knots of his heart were loosened. Owing to that effectual touch, Junior Naren, there was another boy named Naren, so younger Naren or Junior Naren, they used to call him. He was very dear to Thakur. And when he married Thakur, wept bitterly. And his married life was not so happy, successful at all. And he was from the beginning the vakil of Ramakrishna Mission. To get mission registered and all that, everything he has done. Owing to that effectual touch, Junior Naren entered into ecstasy during his meditation on the formless God. He was also Nirakari. So he got Samadhi. Not Nirguna, Nirakara. But the experience of a foretaste of the Nirvikala Samadhi on account of that touch was seen in the life of Narendra Thakur. We saw first day, first touch, second day, first touch, that he saw the world and I going into Anishadira. He shouted to Thakur, stop it. But that was the foretaste. It was about to happen. Besides touching the devotees in that way, the master initiated some of them in mantras. That is not writing on tongue, just like our Diksha, telling in the ears. At the time of initiation, he did not examine the horoscopes of the disciples, nor did he perform worships, etc. Now in mission also, nobody sees horoscope. But when that the Kula Gurus and all that, their Patrika is seen, then the day is fixed and so many things are there. But Thakur is not purely Vaidya Diksha. And perform worship, our Gurus do, that you know. But Thakur did not do also in God really worship. Like ordinary preceptors. But observing with the help of the yogic vision their impressions accumulated during the past lives, he pointed out their mantras saying, this is your mantra. Does you understand? We'll describe it in Mahapurush Maharaj's case, then we'll understand. Mahapurush Maharaj had miracle samadhi in several places. When in Omkareshwar, he went to Nirvikala Samadhi in the manner described in the Mandukya Upanishad. That means his individuality lost, became the universal, gross. Then that grossness lost, then that lost, zero light. And then Turiya. While coming back, it did not come back that way. When he came back, the first thing he was aware was Sri Ramakrishna. And from Sri Ramakrishna, he saw all gods and goddesses coming out. And from all gods and goddesses, he saw all of us, the whole world coming out. And then this got repeated, Anulom and Vilom several times. That means the world vanishes into gods and goddesses, they vanish into Thakur, and mind again goes to Nirvikala. Like that several times it happened. So he became firmly rooted in that Thakur is the Yuga avatar and is Sarva Deva Devi Swarup. Now, he used to see Thakur and always, you have seen that picture like that. If there was a video, you will hear Ramakrishna, Ramakrishna, Ramakrishna used to say and sit like that. Now we are going to him from a distance. He would see from Thakur a Deva Devata coming out. Then we enter his room. He sees from that Devata he is coming out. And immediately he would say, this is your Ishta. So, through this description, I pointed out how Thakur could say, this is your Ishta. Now, Thakur himself is Devadeva Swarup. So, from him you would see one particular goddess and he is from that goddess. We have heard from him that he bestowed his grace in that way on Niranjan, Tej Chandra, Vaikuntha and some others. So he is going on giving examples every time. It is not imagination of his mind. He has analyzed and found out these are the types because these are the examples. He did not initiate anyone in a Shakta or a Vaishnava mantra merely because that person was born in a Shakta or Vaishnava family. So they asked the Kula Devata what they do. They are giving initiation. They ask Ishta Devata also so many questions there. So born in a Vaishnava family, so he is Vaishnava. His sanskara are to be seen. Mirabai was born in Rajput family. And Rajputs are devotees of whom you know? Either Ekalinga Shiva or Shakti. And she is Krishna Bhakta. No atmosphere of Krishna Bhakti there. People will tell different reasons. Some Bharat was going on, and Meera asked, what is this? His mother said, this is Bharat. Then she said, who will be my husband? She said, Krishna. That telling would not create everything. And that was one of the reasons why she was tortured. They would try to force her to go to Shakti or Shiva. He did not initiate anyone in a Shakta or a Vaishnava mantra merely because that person was born in a Shakta or Vaishnava. I told about Yateswaranji that persons of the same family would have initiated differently. Sometimes that being is different. Sometimes it is different. One of our volunteers, his two sisters wanted to take initiation. He initiated them in Gopal Math. I know that. Well, this devotee got in Thakur's mantra. After these days, it is lost now because mass scale. Now, Yateswaranji had a letter from Mahapuruji explaining how to decide which mantra, which deity and which mantra to be given. And that he was following. So that story I had not told you. Yateswaranji was in Madras and he was asked to go to Germany. Because war broke out, so after a few days in Germany, he went to America. Now, before going to Germany, he wrote to Mahapurush Maharaj. He was himself Brahman Swamiji said. But Mahaprabhu was the president at the time and he wrote that I have no objection going to foreign, but those who go to foreign have to give diksha. That I don't think I can give. So this is my dilemma. So Mahaprabhu wrote to him, I tell you give. And he sent him a letter giving various mantras and how to check people and how to decide which mantra to be given to him. So when he received that letter, he felt he has got that chapras authority. So when coming back from America, he was the president of the Bangalore Ashram and he continued giving initiation. But that was out of our rules because only president or vice president, now authorized persons like that. So they asked him, he sent a copy of that to the trustees. That this is my chapras, I'll continue. Then they ratified it. And when he was invited to Nagpur, he had brought that letter with him and gave it to my Guruji. And my Guruji was asking me, everybody, you want to see that letter? I did not see. I said, you have seen, that is enough. So that was the situation. After a careful scrutiny of the inner tendencies, he would sometimes initiate a Shakti or Vishnu worshipper with a Vishnu or Shakti mantra, reverse. It is therefore evident that he observed everyone's tendency and prescribed everything accordingly. This is as a guru. Huh? Then he would himself appear as Ishtar. What the master's divine touch proved. It is recorded in the scripture that great souls can, by their will or touch, impart spiritual power to others and turn the course of their minds to higher channels. Even the lives of prostitutes, lecherous persons, and other perpetrators of sinful actions have thus been changed by the influence of great souls. Not to speak of those of the disciples of their inner circles. What is this inner circle doing here? Their life is changed or they change the life? Oh, among those who are initiated, not that the disciples are doing like that. That means Thakur to his intimate disciples are giving different mantras and rousing their consciousness, but up to prostitutes and lecherous persons also he is rousing the consciousness. Have been changed. That is about incarnations. In Buddha, we have that Amrapali. In Jesus and Mary. And in Thakur, more than one. That Nati Vinodini. They are not prostitutes, but almost. And one Kushtarogi had touched once and purity. You know, in our country at least, this Kushtarogi is supposed to be due to some path. And other perpetrators of sinful actions have thus been changed by the influence of great souls, not to speak of those of the disciples of their inner circle. This cross has become little hanging. In Bengali, that is how the sentence starts. Not only about their disciples, but about these people also. Sentence is not wrong. Great souls can, by their will or touch, impart spiritual power, not to speak those of, anyway. The manifestation of that power is seen more or less in the life of each of the great souls. So we are thinking of examples here is given, such as Krishna. In Krishna's case, Kubdi, that hunchback woman. Buddha, just now I told Amrapali, Jesus, Chaitanya, who have all along been worshipped as incarnations in the world. So we do not know the name, at least I do not know the name. And Chaitanya's case, who is it? Who have all along been worshipped as incarnations in the world. But of what avail is it that it is so written in the scriptures? Sardar Swami says, we do not believe this. But seeing Thakur, we believe. Having no direct knowledge of the extraordinary actions of the personages of that class for a very long time, the world totally lost its faith in them. Even the faith in God is very often regarded nowadays as a sign of mental weakness, born of superstition. And this thing is growing in on one side, especially among the politicians. And even more so, the faith in his incarnation. That God can incarnate itself is disbelief. It was very necessary in the modern age for an extraordinary person like the Master to be born in this world. So that is Yuga Avatar. In order to remove that lack of faith from the minds of men in general and make them spiritual. Seeing the manifestation of that power in him, we are now coming to have faith in the similar powers of the great souls of the past. Even if one may not accept the Master as an incarnation of God, one cannot, when one sees that power in him, deny that he was an extraordinary person belonging to the same class as Krishna, Buddha, Jesus, Chaitanya and other great souls. Understand this? Some people do not believe in incarnation at all. So when Thakur asked them, who am I? They would say, you are a person of this category. The devotees were under the impression that the Master was a person of their own mood, the Master's behavior with them. That is the main thing. Among those devotees whom the Master had known before they actually came there were people of various ages, classes and spiritual mood. Variety. Thakur was a great gardener, they say, he has made a bouquet of all flowers. Such as the young and the old, householders and monks, worshippers of God with form and God without form. In spite of all these differences, there was one common point observable in them all, Each one of them had an unshakable faith in and single-minded devotion to his own path of sadhana and the chosen ideal, and was ever ready to undergo any amount of sacrifice for the realization of God. So this is common. Nishtha and yearning. Sacrifice ready. The master tied one and all to himself with the cord of his love and guarded everybody's particular spiritual mood and behaved towards him in a way that made him think that he, although an expert in all religious doctrine, had greater love for the path along which the devotee himself was proceeding. They saw Thakur mixing with others, but they say he belongs to us. There was no limit to the disciples' love and devotion to the master on account of that impression of their science. So it's ours. That will again, as soon as they transcended the aha, Thakur would not keep them like that. Nishtha is supported, and after they realize they should become broad. Otherwise, God is God of their limitations, not the real God. That is why Acharya Nama Acharya. Again, as soon as they transcended the narrow circle of sectarianism, etc., one by one, different circles, different limits, and came to possess liberal views by virtue of his company and under the influence of his instruction and teaching, they were astonished and charmed to see this perfection. What is this suddenly sentence? This perfection. Oh, when they became Udar, they saw Thakur as perfection of Udar. So, whatever bhav and whatever stage that devotee is, Thakur will be like that. And I'll give an example, Balram Bose. We do not have time now. Let us try. Balram Basu, an example of understanding the master better as his Catholicity grew wider. Catholicity means Udarabhav. Balram Basu of Bagbazar was born in a Vaishnava family and was himself a great follower of that faith. Living in the world, he was untouched by it, and though possessing great wealth, he never had pride in his heart. In his house, he appeared as a servant of the house, not owner. He used to spend 4 or 5 hours in worship and religious study every morning and was so careful in observing the virtue of non-injury that he never hurt even insects, birds, etc. for any reason whatever. As soon as the master saw him for the first time, he received him lovingly as if he was already familiar with him. The master said he is a devotee of the inner circle of the great Lord Sri Chaitanya. He belongs to this place, meaning himself. I witnessed in ecstasy how the great Lord Chaitanya, together with the revered souls, Advaita and Nityananda, brought about a flood of Hari's name in the country and inebriated a number of men, women and children by means of Sankirtan sung by a wonderful party in which I saw Balaram. how Balram behaved when he met the master first, his spiritual progress. Keeping the master's company, Balram underwent wonderful transformations as he went forward in the spiritual realm with a rapid step. Going beyond the limit of external worship and other kinds of ritualistic devotion enjoined by the scriptures, he could in a short time live in the world completely reliant on God and able to discriminate the real from the unreal. So these things are added to his Vaishnava faith. Offering his own life, wife, son, wealth, etc., at his lotus feet, and living like a servant of his in this world, even ready to carry out his commands, Balaram came to have only one aim in life, namely to live in the holy company of the Master as much as possible. He could not remain satisfied with himself, enjoying the peace born of the grace of the Master. That was another quality of his. But busied himself with making suitable arrangement for his friends and relatives to come in contact with the Master and to enjoy the bliss derived therefrom. Many people thus felt blessed to have the Master as their refuge on account of Balram's eagerness. He used to carry with him all these relatives, close relatives, distant relatives. Balram's doubt whether to change his opinion about the virtue of non-injury. Like his external worship, Balram's opinion about the observance of the virtue of non-injury also got changed in a short time. Before that time, he never used to hurt even mosquitoes, etc., though they distracted his mind at the time of worship, not sleep. It would, he thought, destroy his piety altogether. Now, one day during this time, the thought suddenly crossed his mind that due to evolution, that a religion consisted in making the infinite distracted mind concentrate on God and not in always engaging oneself in saving the lives of mosquitoes, insects, birds, etc. That is what the Vaishnavas do, feeding ants with sugar and like that. Therefore, if the mind could be helped to concentrate on Hari for a short time by the killing of a few mosquitoes, that act should, far from being considered irreligious, be regarded as highly beneficial to man's end in life. So that becomes one criteria. Balram said the long-standing eagerness of the mind to observe the virtue of non-injury got a rude shock at that thought. But the mind, assailed by doubts, found it very difficult to be swayed by the new thought. I therefore started for Dakshineshwar to consult the master about it. On my way, I went on thinking the matter over. Did I ever see him kill mosquitoes, etc., like others? I could not remember such an act as far as I could see. He was more devoted to the observance of the vow of non-injury than I. I recollected that when one day he saw a man treading a field green with newly grown grass, he felt as if the man was stamping on his breast and become restless with pain. Identified with that. The power and consciousness giving vitality to the field of grass and pervading it through and through appeared so clearly to him. The decision forced itself upon me that it was quite unnecessary to ask him the question and that it was my mind that was playing me false. Let me, however, go and see him. The mind will thus become purified, I thought. His doubt removed by the master's uncommon behavior. I reached Dakshineshwar and came to the door of the master's room, but before I entered it, I was astounded to see from a distance what he was doing. I saw him bringing out bugs from his own bed and killing them. The bugs came that very day, and killing them. As soon as I approached and bowed down to him, he said, "There are many bugs breeding in the pillow. They bite me day and night, produce distraction of the mind and disturb sleep." Not dhyana. I am therefore killing them. There was no need to ask a question. My mind became free from doubt on hearing his words and seeing his action. But astonished, I thought, I have been coming to him at all hours and without notice, without notice, that not that he deliberately thinks I behave like that. For the last 2 or 3 years, I came in the daytime and returned at night. I came at dusk and took leave only when the night had advanced more than 3 hours. I came and went thus 3 or 4 times every week, but never did I happen to see him do such an act. How could it be? The solution is this. I was convinced that my spiritual mood would have suffered had I seen him do so before. I would have lost faith in him. The supremely compassionate master, therefore, never acted thus in my presence. Om Sarvadharma Stapakasvam Sarvadharma Swarupaka Acharyanam Mahacharyo Ramakrishna Te Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hare Om Tat Sat. Sri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. तो उसने दिखा उधर पंगत में
लास्ट में दिखाना